Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family.
Don Jr.'s entire team was trying to protect him from his fraud trial and got completely torched by late-night host Jimmy Kimmel with one brutal joke. And Kimmel is the Trump family's personal arch-nemesis. Well, this is exactly what happened. Don Jr. launched his PR strategy that just blew up in your face. It all kicked off with one single joke that too aimed at the one excuse Don Jr. was clinging to like a life raft.
The Gambozos, if you will, and Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist with real estate. Yeah, he's an artist he's Vincent Van Gogh to jail with real estate.
So, what was this joke that cut so deep it sent shockwaves through the MAGA-verse? And why did this punchline, out of all the jokes ever told about him, hit such a raw nerve? To get that, we have to go back to the scene of the crime, or, the trial. The whole stage for this drama was a courtroom in New York City. The case, a massive civil fraud trial brought by the New York Attorney General against the Trump Organization, originally seeking $250 million, but ending with a judgment of over $450 million.
No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it. The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case. I thank you all for being here. And again, justice will prevail. Thank you.
The accusation was pretty straightforward. For years, Donald Trump and his top people, including his sons, had been systematically lying about how much his assets were worth. We're talking skyscrapers, golf courses, even his own penthouse, all supposedly puffed up on paper to get better deals on loans and insurance. The judge has already found the Trump Organization exaggerated its wealth and falsified business records. The civil trial will determine what penalty should be imposed. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat, is seeking a fine of $250 million, 204 million pounds, and a ban on the former president doing business in his home state. Donald Trump Jr. is the first of the Trump children to give evidence in this case.
Today, Don Jr.'s attitude is a little bit different. He's owning his ignorance. He is admitting on the stand, clearly, openly, almost proudly, that he doesn't know anything about GAAP or other accounting standards, or the Accounting Standards Board that sets those rules. It's basically saying, I have nothing to offer in that respect because I relied on my lawyers and accountants to do that work for me. I paid them millions of dollars. That answer, in part, was struck by the judge who found it to be non-responsive, and the Attorney General was a little bit peeved by that. But from that, I, as a former lawyer, can see that's where we're going to see Don Jr. go. This wasn't my responsibility. This was all on Mazars and our former lead accountant, Donald Bender. My brother and I and our father in absentia, we're all innocent of any intent to commit fraud. We relied on the people who worked for us.
Earlier this week, he appeared on the conservative Newsmax network to call the trial a sham in a kangaroo court. He and Eric Trump are co-defendants alongside their father. The brothers are both executive vice presidents at the Trump Organization. Dressed in a blue suit and bright pink tie, Mr. Trump Jr. testified for a little over an hour. His testimony will resume on Thursday. The outset of his evidence focused on generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, the standardized practices and guidelines that businesses use to ensure financial records are accurately maintained.
He also boasted that his dad is the father of hotel gyms. He said maybe someone put a gym in a building somewhere, but no one did it at the scale of my father. He's saying that his father, the father of the hotel gym, is a guy who's never stepped inside one, okay? The amount of ass kissing in this trial is insane. DJ TJ, of course, denies any and all wrongdoing and is instead going with the "our accountants did it" defense.
I'm not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors. Right? You understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy.
I'm a business guy who had his elbows soldered together, and now
Mr. Trump Jr. said he was not familiar with GAAP, besides what he could recall from his time studying business at university. Pressed by State Attorney Colleen Faherty on his understanding of the subject, he drew chuckles in court as he responded, "I have no understanding. I leave it to my accountants," Mr. Trump Jr. said. At another point, Mr. Trump Jr. told the judge he was sorry for speaking too quickly for the court stenographer to keep up. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel was watching. For years, the host of Jimmy Kimmel Live has been one of the sharpest critics of Trump and his family. Their feud is long and public, filled with brutal nicknames and monologues that clearly got under the president's skin.
Hey guys, this is the first look inside that courtroom. Our NBC camera is the pool camera here. They gave us a chance to shoot, so now we all see what's happening inside there as this trial gets underway. There's DA James, yep, right, sitting there. Actually, not at the front table. That's kind of interesting,
No,
isn't it?
because she's not trying the case, so she's sitting behind her attorneys.
Yeah, the Attorney General there, Letitia James. Thank you so much. And there you see President Trump, the former president, I should say, next to his attorney, and that's Chris Kise, who we expect to make the opening statements here. And then this,
Judge Engoron.
I guess, is Judge Engoron, and he is awaiting the start of this trial.
And with all the complaining the Trumps do about this trial playing out in the media, you could barely even turn the channel without seeing their lawyer doing an interview with somebody.
What have they been asking the kids? And tell me how they fit into all of this.
They don't fit into all of this. What have they been asking the kids? It's very simple. They'll ask the kids, did you give a value to somebody? Did you do something? And everybody said resoundingly no. And these kids did nothing wrong. They should not be in this case. Ivanka's already out of the case. The boys should not be in the case.
That's right. They're just boys. They're kids. Eric has a book report due this weekend. They're both still wearing pull-ups. They're on trial? I mean, come on.
It's been reported that Trump was so mad about Kimmel's jokes that he had the White House call Disney executives to try and get them to shut Kimmel up. So for the Trumps, this isn't just comedy, it's personal. So when Don Jr. gave his blame the accountants testimony, you just knew Kimmel was going to have a field day. On the night of November 1st, 2023, he did. Kimmel kicked things off by calling Don Jr. the fraud eagle's son, which set the tone perfectly. He even played a clip of Don Jr. outside the courthouse where he awkwardly joked that he should have worn makeup.
Don and Don Jr. had some father and son event this weekend. They went to the UFC fight at Madison Square Garden. There they are. And Trump's being cheered on with, he's got Dana White there. He's got Tucker Carlson in the back. He's got Kid Rock in tow. And of course, oh yeah, there we go, a little fist bump. Don Jr. was thrilled to be a part of the group. He posted this picture of him and Tuck cackling in their blue checker print shirts. A couple of banana Republicans right there. And by the way, Donald Trump's older sister, Marianne, the former judge, died this morning. They found her unresponsive in her apartment. She was 86 years old. So far today, Trump has posted lashing out at the witch hunt, attacking deranged Jack Smith, going on about radical left zealots and thugs, plugging a book of letters he's selling. No mention of his sister whatsoever. I hope he at least has the decency to find a good plot for her on the golf course.
Kimmel's deadpan response was just withering. Here's the thing about Don Jr., he told the audience. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. But the killer blow was still to come. Kimmel, like everyone else, saw how ridiculous Don Jr.'s main defense was. He pointed out the moment where Don Jr. basically threw the company's accountants under the bus. And then, with perfect timing, Kimmel delivered the line that this whole story pivots on. He quipped, "I'm sure the accountants will love that when they get subpoenaed next."
And while Don Jr. was in New York preparing to testify in court, his fiancée Kimberly was at the party dressed up as Trump's constituent, Snow White. Don Jr. was not at Daddy Donald's last night. The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. There he is, tiny soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah, good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So.
It wasn't some complicated highbrow joke. It was simple, direct, and absolutely devastating. In one sentence, it captured how dumb the whole strategy was. It pointed out the obvious flaw. You can't blame the accountants without turning them into legal targets. And there's no way they're going to take the fall for you quietly. The joke just landed with a thud of reality. Kimmel kept going, of course. He mocked Don Jr.'s claim that his father was an artist with real estate, firing back, "Yeah, he's an artist. He's Vincent Van Goghing to jail."
The Gambozos, if you will, and Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist with real estate. Yeah, he's an artist. He's Vincent Van Gogh to jail with real estate. Is what he is.
But it was that one line about the accountants that really stuck. It was a surgical strike that exposed the entire defense, not with legal jargon, but with simple, undeniable comedic logic. The joke was out there, and now everyone was just waiting to see what would happen next. So how does someone like Donald Trump Jr. respond when a late-night host not only makes fun of him, but also shows millions of people how weak his legal defense is?
All cases involving the family Trump. DJ TJ was sworn in on an upside-down Bible. He will finish his testimony tomorrow, and then Eric will testify, and then Trump will claim he's never met either one of them. But it's getting serious. There's even some worry Don Jr. could be tried as an adult in this one. Trump was not there in person to support his sons. He had a Halloween party to host, but he did lash out at the judge on Truth Social. He wrote, "There's no victim except me. Leave my children alone, Engoron. You are a disgrace to the legal profession." That's right, leave my children alone. It's easy, I've done it their whole lives.
Almost instantly, the internet started buzzing. A story began to spread, pushed by clickbait headlines and social media posts that Don Jr. had a full-on meltdown. Some of these stories, mostly on platforms like YouTube and TikTok, even claimed that he actually called the police on Jimmy Kimmel. You saw headlines screaming, "Don Jr. called cops on Jimmy Kimmel," and describing an absolute meltdown. Okay, so we have to be super clear about something here. There is absolutely no credible evidence from any real news source that Donald Trump Jr. called the cops on a comedian for telling a joke. That whole part of the story seems to be a meme that took on a life of its own, a piece of internet folklore that just perfectly summed up how people saw the situation.
The judge in the case has issued an expanded gag order, ruling that Trump's attorneys can no longer make any public statements in or out of court about communications between the judge, that's Judge Engoron, and his staff. It's an angry crescendo to a tension we told you about as it was brewing yesterday. Donald Trump's team repeatedly insinuating bias on the part of the judge's clerk. It happened again today. Trump's team making dubious accusations, a manufactured sideshow, in the word of the AG's office. During trial today, Judge Engoron had this to say, quote, "This allegation is untrue. It's a shame we have descended to this level," he said, adding, quote, "I don't want any further comments about my staff."
The idea itself became a punchline, but just because he didn't call 911 doesn't mean there wasn't a reaction. The meltdown wasn't one single explosive moment. It was part of a pattern we've seen time and time again. What we can see is the Trump family's go-to response whenever they face criticism, especially satire. Instead of taking on Kimmel directly over this specific joke, Don Jr.'s camp fell back on the family playbook. It's a pretty simple strategy. Deny, attack, and then flip it so you become the victim. He and his allies launched a broader campaign of outrage.
But I will say one thing you do have to hand to the Trumps. They stick together, whether they're running a fake university or a phony charitable organization or just burying their mother on a golf course. See here. They are a unified front. Trump's lawyers are reportedly having trouble making sure they can even go to all of his trials because there are so many of them. There are court dates today in both New York and Florida. Never has a team of attorneys racked up more billable hours that they will not ever get paid for than this one. Trump is desperately trying to paint himself as the victim of a conspiracy to railroad his presidential campaign, masterminded by his arch nemesis, Joe Biden.
These highly political Biden lawsuits and indictments shouldn't be allowed to start until after the election is over. We're going to make America great again. We're going to put America first. We're going to have a great country. It's going to be called the United States of America. Thank you very much.
The anger wasn't really about the content of the joke. It was about the nerve of the joker. On his social media, Don Jr. keeps up a constant fire hose of posts attacking liberal elites, the mainstream media, and people like Kimmel, who he's called a disingenuous fraud before.
As upset as his fellow Republicans pretend to be, no one is more perturbed right now than Trump's most disappointing son.
And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Trump already beat Stormy Daniels in court? Like, in all fairness, like, isn't she like paying his legal bills or something like that? I don't know.
His hands move faster than his brain. They're like, I mean, What is it? It's like if Jim Henson had no puppets. How you doing over there? I'm doing real good. The important thing for DJ TJ isn't necessarily defending his father in the Trump family. What's most important is this.
The other thing that you should be watching is the insanity going on in the market right now. So I want to make sure that I take the time to tell you about another one of our great sponsors, Goldco.
In his world, Jimmy Kimmel isn't just a comedian, he's a political enemy. So a joke isn't just a joke, it's an attack. And all attacks have to be met with overwhelming force. Before we get into exactly why Kimmel's roast was such a perfect piece of political satire, let me ask you something. If you're finding this breakdown interesting, do me a favor and hit that like button. And more importantly, drop a comment below and let me know what you think of the blame the accountants defense. Is it a legit legal strategy or one of the weakest excuses you've ever heard? Let's get a conversation going.
That's just poor sportsmanship. And then we have the always delightful Donald Trump Jr., who reposted this on Sunday, a video mocking President Zelensky of Ukraine with the caption, POV, you're 38 days from losing your allowance, which are bold words from a man who is definitely still on his father's phone plan. I mean, if I was Donald Trump Jr., I wouldn't ever use the word allowance in any situation. What is his job? Is being horrible an occupation now?
So why did that one joke, just a simple sentence, hit so hard? It wasn't just funny, it was a perfect piece of commentary wrapped in a comedy bow. Let's break down why it was so effective. First off, and this is the most important part, it was built on truth. The best satire doesn't make things up. It just shines a light on what's already there. Donald Trump Jr. really did stand up in court and try to blame his accountants. Kimmel didn't have to exaggerate anything. All he did was hold up a mirror to the defense and point out the obvious consequence. The accountants are next.
Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Less than an average person trying too hard. And he then ran that on the air and then took a crack at you. You're getting even with him.
And what else did I say? I said some other pretty good things.
What were you getting even with
George Slappadopoulos. George Slappadopoulos. No, look, Jimmy Kimmel is every night. He hits me, I guess. His ratings are terrible. He's not a talented guy. I hear he hits me all the time, so I figured I'd hit him because I thought he was a lousy host. Now, I put it out on Truth, which is on fire, by the way. Truth Social is doing great. I never expected he was going to be reading it. Just prior to the movie of the year, which is the big one, right? That's the big one. I think they get the man, the woman, now the movie of the year. He reads my Truth on air. He reads exactly what you read. And now the big story is that they all begged him not to do it, don't do it. And he probably stupidly, he had to act in a short period of time, like minutes, right? He had minutes because he's on air. He sees this thing, and he wants to go out there, and he wants to, I guess, confront me in a sense. And he ends up reading my Truth. I said, this guy's even dumber than I thought. The thing went viral. It's been all over the world now.
The joke was powerful because it was true, and that truth was brutal for the defense's credibility. Second, the joke was brilliantly simple. The New York fraud trial is complicated, full of dense financial jargon that makes most people's eyes glaze over. The blame the accountants defense was an attempt to simplify things in his favor, but Kimmel's joke simplified it even more, in a way everyone could instantly get. He cut through all the legal fog with one sharp point. You don't need a law degree to understand what it means to throw someone under the bus. He turned a complex legal problem into a simple human one.